Hey peeps, welcome to today's virtual cooking class. My name's Cindy, and today we're joined by our guest host.
I'm Mairi. Hi.
Woo! Sorry for getting a little slow going. I misplaced my glasses and I'm a little visually impaired. So, found them. Life is good. I don't see the stream, but it says we're live. So,
Maybe give us a comment.
Give us a comment if you don't see nothing. Yeah. So, Venerate, welcome. Today we are going to be making pumpkin pie from scratch. Woo! From a pumpkin we got from the Kewapala Gardens.
Here's the beautiful half of it. I hope this is on camera. Yeah, so Sid roasted the other half. Well, she roasted the entire pumpkin earlier today, and then scooped out and blended.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, we are live. Okay,
thanks,
half
Karen.
of it in the blender. So now we have a fresh pumpkin mash, like the kind you can buy a can, but from the garden.
Yeah. Apologize for the lost in the tech sauce, as it were. But so, did you explain the roasting process?
Not in depth. Would you like to do that?
I think that would be dope. Mary is well versed in cooking, despite being the younger homie of the two of us, and so sometimes I turn to her for expert opinions on things, like squash. So, like, how do we go from the jack-o'-lantern pumpkin to this? Like,
The process. So, well, Sid's the one who actually roasted the pumpkin. Although
I followed the internet. It was very helpful. I also put it on the recipe in case you saw it. Oh no. Oh, aha, there you go.
Yeah. But typically when I roast squash is I'll cut it off. Some squash are easier to cut than others if you're squash. And you can make pumpkin pie with pumpkin or with like pretty much any kind of squash, which is cool. It's the spices and the sugar that make it wonderful, but all kinds of squash are delicious. Some of them are harder to cut than others. Acorn squash in particular can be tough. So if you're using that kind, be careful. You don't want your knife to slip. Make sure your knife is very sharp because it's safer to cut with a sharp knife, as intuitive as that sounds. But yeah, out the seeds. Did you drizzle oil out?
I didn't because I used a little bit of coconut oil and I have a recipe I was following, so I add a little bit of salt. So I did a little coconut oil, a little bit of salt.
Did you roast them face up or face down?
Face down. Is that how you usually roast?
I usually do it. Yeah, so if you're making soup or something, you can also put other spices, rub it on there, so it kind of gets extra flavor. Yeah, but for pie, I think just oil and salt's good. But I would probably pour it on your top of it. You put it on the bottom, more likely to burn. And what I like to do when I roast squash, which you know is necessary, but a little water on the bottom. And, if you can use a 9 by 13 inch baking pan. Your squash is small. Just put some water in there. It will steam and help cook the squash, and it's also going to from like burning and yeah. If you're not great about making your squash, if you forget to set a timer and you just kind of be so.
Pro tip: water in the pan, y'all.
Learn that. What's next?
I like the team handhold thing. It brings me joy. Okay, so once you got this handy dandy pumpkin puree, and if you could not find a local great pumpkin Charlie Brown style pumpkin, you could also use a can of pure pumpkin as found at Turtle Creek, but we recommend a pumpkin from your garden or from a friend, like, maybe Carm Sully at SU's greenhouse or anywhere else, because pumpkins are fun. So once we got the puree, then it looks like we need to make some crust and we need to make some filling. But maybe first and foremost in the recipe, we gotta preheat the oven to bake up the pie.
So this one is 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm sure you've all seen this many times. It takes a minute.
It's got charm, character, lovability. Solid.
Cool.
Okay. So step 2 is prepare pie crust by mixing together the flour and salt. Cut shortening into flour, add water, cold water, a tablespoon at a time until it's like mixable, and repeat until dough is moist enough to hold together. Solid. Would you well, maybe to bring it forward. Would you like to do the crust or would you like to do the filling, Mary? Usually Hollis and I kind of pass the torch of.
Oh, are we doing them at the same time?
I guess we could, but sometimes it's
a little hectic.
A little bit, we got a little bit of elbow bumping going on here. Sure, okay. I'll provide some handy narrations. So what are the ingredients, maybe?
First up is flour. So 1 1/3 cups all-purpose flour. So let me grab a fork. So the reason I grab a fork is I like to fluff my flour before I bake with it. The most accurate way to bake is using a scale instead of measuring cups, but I always bake with measuring cups. They work just fine unless you're being, like a pro pastry chef. But in order to get the right amount of flour, you can pack sugar and you can pack brown sugar into a cup because I forget why, but science and, it's going to be the same volume. It's not really packable, whereas flour, because it's lighter and typically if you're not going to fluff it or if you're not going to sift it or scoop it into your cup, then it's going to be a lot denser. So that's usually why I'm lazy. The fork fluffing method is very lazy instead of scooping or, sifting. So I kind of do that, just shake it off so it's on the top.
Beautiful.
And then it won't be too dense because you don't want too much flour in there. So this is 1 cup. And then we need to do a third.
Yeah, I was like,
let me get the eggs to roll off.
Using lots of good eyeballing measurement practice we've cultivated on this show.
You're not supposed to bake with eyeballing, but I do it all the time, and I almost never have issues. So
knock on wood.
I hope today is not the time. That would be sad. So that was about 1 1/3 cup.
Solid. Okay. So it looks like next we got a 1/2 teaspoon of salt.
Sounds good. Here. Oh, too, and when you're baking, all-purpose flour is pretty much all you need. But if you want to use, whoops, that was a lot of salt. Don't measure your salt over your mixing bowl because then if there's too much, it'll go in. So I'm just gonna add a little bit back. So really, this is not great baking.
Oh, that's okay. So, out of curiosity, Mary, why are you adding salt to a sweet dessert? That seems a little counterintuitive. Do you want to explain the method to the madness, as it were?
Most baked goods have a small amount of salt in them, and I think it just kind of, sweet and salty is a thing for a reason. I'm sure there's a scientific explanation, but like, have you ever had dark chocolate with a little bit of salt on top? It tastes really good, and it kind of brings out the bitter notes and the sweetness. So it just kind of like brings out the sweetness a little more if you add a pinch of salt, but not too much.
So like maybe that's why brownies they call for salt sometimes too.
Yeah, chocolate chip cookies, zucchini bread, lots of things.
Yum. I'm getting hungry, but we're eating pie today, so it's still a beautiful day and the old mission of a. But okay, so we got the flour, we got the salt, and now we're looking at a 1/2 cup of shortening.
I'm just gonna, when you're baking, you want to mix your dry ingredients all together first to make sure they're all evenly mixed, and then you can add your wet ingredients.
Good
stuff.
So
now we'll do the shortening.
Okay.
How much is it?
Third of a cup. 1/2 cup. I was mistaken. Let's see if we got a 1/2 cup.
Oh, and what I was saying too about the flour, in recipes that call for all-purpose or white flour, you can, in my experience, substitute up to half of that with whole wheat flour without affecting the final product. And that kind of goes for most things. Like if a recipe calls for oil, but you want to maybe use applesauce as a substitute, I would substitute up to half of the amount of oil with applesauce. And you shouldn't really notice a difference in the end result, but if you substitute more than half, that's usually when I've had issues with my baked goods. But just a tip.
Yeah, thank you. So I couldn't find a 1/2 cup, but I found 1/8 of a cup. So I think today is going to be a great day to use some math fractions.
1/2 cup. So 1/8 of a cup. That's going to be 4/8 is 1/2. So I'm going to do 4 of these.
Nice.
That is how math works. So they tell me.
Oh, hey Bobby. Hey Tisha. I know that sometimes I think my grandma likes to use like butter in pie crust, but I also know that sometimes our non-critter product eating buds prefer shortening,
Or coconut oil works really well, but if you're substituting butter as shortening with each other or with coconut oil, I think the important thing is to make sure that they're the same consistency. So if it calls for butter at room temperature, you would want your coconut oil or shortening to be at room temperature. And if it calls for melted, then you'd want it to be melted. But
good to know. Yeah. Good to know. Okay.
Good thing we have another one.
Yeah. He, came prepared today. Wow, if I can open it, this is going to be the feed of the century. Ha ha! I got it. My mom would be so proud. Thanks, Mary.
I think this was number 3. So I got one more.
Oh. Taylor, Ruth, and Sherilyn. Thanks for the shout outs, peeps. It keeps it fun and exciting in the cooking class kitchen. Get a cup and put in some cold water for Mary to use.
Thank you. And unfortunately, I don't think containers like this are recyclable, so I'll have to throw it out. But I don't drop everything. I think I can recycle the lid. Number 2, yeah.
Oh, don't recycle that one.
This?
Yeah, that's the new one. The new lid.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Whoops. Okay.
No worries. I didn't say nothing. We got some cold water.
So the recipe says you are cutting in the shortening, and that just kind of means I'm probably going to take a knife or a fork, or maybe my spoon, we'll see. And you just kind of want to you kind of, I don't know how to explain this obviously, but you're just kind of going to mix it in. But it's going to be solid, so it's not going to mix like it would if you added, water or liquid. So it's probably, Sid can start mixing the filling and I'll work on this for a minute and then we can show you what, oh God, I'm blocking the light.
Okay.
Show you what it looks like in a little bit. There we go.
I feel like it's sometimes like cutting in like butter margarine kind of makes me think of like when you're like a little kid and you're at your grandparents' house and you're playing on the piano and like how to play chopsticks, but that's the only thing. It's you're like ding tick 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 tick, but like with a spatula and flour and butter. So like same but very different. But that's what it makes me think of.
Same, very different. Yeah, and I think sometimes pastry seems scary because it's unfamiliar and you don't always make pie crust all the time. But it's not that bad. And to be honest, I usually, when I want to make a crust, will Google like easy canola oil pie crust recipe because then it's all liquid and it's just even easier. And it still tastes really good. So
good to know.
Yeah.
Perhaps for next time. Okay. So Mary is doing the hearty legwork of cutting in the shortening. I am going to, in a large bowl, beat some pumpkin, evaporated milk, eggs, brown sugar, cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, and salt, with an electric mixer. So first things first, I haven't beaten the eggs yet. So I'm gonna do that.
Also, if you don't have an electric mixer, you could use a blender. If you don't have a blender, a food processor, or an immersion blender. You can also just use a whisk and a fork. It's going to take you a little bit longer, but it's all right. Or also,
drum roll, please.
The Ace, this fancy old-fashioned hand one. So, one of those.
My dad likes to use those for omelets, and they work really nicely.
For what?
Omelets.
Oh.
It gets it all like fluffy and nice, and it makes you feel fancy. Gonna wash off my hands so you keep this food area safe.
So, as you can see, hopefully, it's still floury, but with like chunks of floury shortening in there. Doesn't that sound delicious? But yeah, so it still needs the water to be added to make it into a crust type thing. So I'm gonna work on that now.
Nice. Okay.
Is that the right amount?
That is a 3.5. Okay. So while Mary's doing that, I'm going to take my fork, kind of stab the yolks and whisk it around quick using my wrist and not my arm so I don't hit Mary. So then my eggs will be beaten, mixed, ready to go. Ooh, yes. We also love some pumpkin pie in this household, Mary. That is her favorite pie.
Oh, yeah, I love pumpkin. I love all desserts, to be honest.
Sure, we don't discriminate, but pumpkin is delicious.
Pumpkin is delicious.
If you have another favorite pie and you are in the studio audience, let us know.
I really also like chocolate
mousse. That'd be tasty.
I'm gonna show you guys kind of what it looks like. I've added, I think, about 2 tablespoons of water. So as you may be able to tell, it's kind of coming together more as a dough. It's chunkier, it's a little bit wetter. So I need a little bit more water and then hopefully it's good. And I'm probably gonna finish mixing it with my hands just because they think, you know, sometimes it needs to happen. Wash your hands first.
Good point. Wash your hands all the time. Okay. We got the eggs. I'm gonna add in the pumpkin puree. Just beautiful yellowy orange color. Just where the beta carotene that makes pumpkins orange is also is something that your body transforms into vitamin A, which keeps your eyes super healthy and strong. So,
you want to hear a funny story about that?
I would love to.
This is a family story that I've told from my Nana and my Papa.
Aww.
And when my Uncle Mark is about 12 years younger than my dad. He's the youngest, my dad's the oldest. And I think he was about 6 years old or something. So my dad was probably 18, but the power went out one night. Yeah, so evaporated milk, very important.
Sorry, get distracted here.
So one night, the power went out one night, and you know how people always say, eat carrots so you can, you know, they'll help you see in the dark?
Yeah.
So he's like, quick, we better get some carrots. Because he thought that just, you know, having the carrots without the power was going to help them see like a flashlight or something. But
that's so charming.
I haven't thought of that in a while.
How old was he?
Probably like 6. Yeah, like a little kid. So they're not going to help you in the dark that way. You have to eat them, but they're delicious. So. Okay. Final show. I'm going to mix it with my hands now, but it's pretty clumpy. Exactly what you want to hear about your dessert. We're just going to mix it together and push it into this. Are we supposed to roll it out, or can I just push it into the tin?
Let's say baker's choice on this one. Okay. I have rolled out in the recipe, but if you feel like you have it, I trust your judgment. I'm going to add the can of evaporated milk. Spilled all over the counter, which is unfortunate, but it's okay.
Should be good. Everything's all right.
Oh man, this is why we have towels.
So look at that.
Ooh, beautiful.
A little dough ball. I think I'll roll it out. See if we have room.
I got a cutting board out. It's just kind of hidden, so I can lift it up if you want to swipe it out.
That sounds good.
Okay. Cute. Cat my computer screen's mouse pad thing. Ah, cute. Sometimes it goes to sleep for a long period of time, like longer naps than I take. So I am glad we didn't lose it.
Okay. So if you don't have a cutting board and you just want to do this on like a table, usually I roll things out on the table. You can put parchment paper on the bottom and on top. And that usually prevent it from sticking, but we're just gonna roll. Yeah. And you know, bottle jar type thing. You don't really necessarily need a rolling pin.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so I'm gonna get 3/4 cup of brown sugar while Mary's doing that.
So I'm going to sprinkle this half with a little bit of flour, not too much because I don't want to add too much to the recipe, but just to keep the bottle from sticking.
Okay. So if you've watched other cooking classes, you may have seen that we do not have a bag of brown sugar in this house, but we do have sugar and we do have molasses. And mixed together with love and tenderness, they make beautiful dark brown sugar. It's tasty. It is very convenient. Ooh. Good catch. And cherry is also delicious. I love cherry. My brothers love cherry. Ooh, coconut cream too.
I made this really good coconut key lime pie a few months ago.
It was so good.
Yeah.
Mary made it with Hollis for my birthday and about cried. It was so tasty. But Karen says that Ma told him to toss up the crust like it's a pizza. Have you ever done that, Mary?
I have not. I don't think I'm quite skilled enough to try that. But can you please do it, Tisha, and send us a video?
Yeah, for real. Karen, if you also are feeling inspired and want to send us a video of that happening, I would be eternally grateful. Okay, so I'm gonna dump in our packed brown sugar. Whoop. I'm gonna add half teaspoon each of cinnamon, ginger, and nutmeg, as well as salt.
Cool. More salt brings out the sweetness.
It does. It really does.
So is anyone baking along right now? You guys gonna bake later? Let us know.
Fun. Yeah. I'm gonna use this as some inspiration, for future pie baking endeavors. Maybe get into it with my grandma over who can make better pies. Maybe that's not a good idea. But
you'd win?
No, I would definitely lose. But then I would get to eat pie from 2 pies, and that'd be delicious.
No shade on my grandma, but I would probably win.
Whoa!
I love my grandma. She's wonderful. She taught me how to sew. I don't think Nana's watching this, but if she is, hi. But growing up, my mom would make homemade goods, but going to Nana's meant that I loved it because she would buy the cookie dough that comes in packets that you like break off into chunks and put on the tray. And it was the only time I got that was at her house, and it was wonderful. But that's how we baked. So,
that's still delicious. Different,
still delicious,
but delicious. But also, Karen says they believe in you.
Tossing it, I don't believe in you, but I appreciate your faith. I think I know my limitations.
You never know if you don't try. Also, shameless plug before the end of the episode, if you're watching this and you haven't filled out the survey yet, and you want to make $15 while watching people make pie, fill out the survey link we'll post in the comments about the Woosh Babe Wowasake series. Select the link. 15 whole new dollars straight to you with love. Just saying, yeah.
While I'm thinking of it, other shameless plug.
No.
I don't know if all of you know, but the Food Sovereignty Initiative has a podcast. It's also a radio show on Koya, but it's called Food Revolution. We talk to local food producers and community members, some of our interns, kind of just what's going on in food sovereignty here on Rosebud, because everybody is doing really cool projects and working on stuff. I feel like, we want to share that with people. So our episode this week is airing on Koya tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. And then if you go to our website, I think there's a media drop down and you can find links to all the episodes that way too. And it's also on Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Play, should be on Apple Podcasts soon. But yeah, go listen and let us know what you think. And if you are doing cool food work or you know someone who is, shoot us a message because we would love to interview them for it.
Yeah.
That's my shameless plug.
Thanks for sharing, Mary. And if you are following along in the comments, our dear friend Karen also has been on the podcast. So if you want to hear about her work with food too,
she also used to edit it, and it was wonderful. But
give it a listen.
So look, it's a crust.
Ooh, it's so crusty.
Also, just I'm gonna put this back on the stove, but one thing to be careful of is this Pyrex or glass or
I believe it's Pyrex.
Okay, good. One time I did explode a pie crust. It looks pretty much like this with crust in it on this hot stove because the temperature changed from the glass and it exploded.
Ooh.
And it was really sad because I had just made the crust and I hadn't had to have pie yet, and then I had to redo it, and I had to clean up glass. So be careful of temperature changes with your glass if you are using a glass baking dish.
Also, while Mary's keeping our pie safe, I'm gonna add a little splash of allspice because it adds a little depth of flavor and it kind of fills out that pumpkin pie spice vibe that we're going for here. So now that all the spices have been added, we are going to blend this baby up. Nice one. Sure. Thank you.
Oh, you're using the blender.
But it'll still be handy to, like, mosey this stuff over. So I'm gonna plug this puppy in. Sorry for the bicep camera block here. Just gonna, oh golly. Aha, okay, so I'm gonna plug this in. Oh, thanks, Karen. Hey, Franny. So we're gonna blend this puppy up. So if you have it next to your ear, be careful. But golly. May I ask your other name, Mary?
Sorry, I like to do dishes while I bake because then there's less to do later, and we have so many, so,
Shake my head, child. Okay, but so,
great.
is this liquidy? Does this consistency look good to you?
Is that all of the ingredients?
It is.
Cool. I mean, it looks
For
a bit.
too liquidy, we could add some cornstarch.
Let's do that. It looks more thinner than pumpkin pies I baked in the past, but I also usually do not bake with eggs or milk. So
should we?
I'm not totally sure what egg and milk consistency of pumpkin pie should be like.
Maybe, since I followed the recipe exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be okay, yeah?
You followed the recipe, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna try this out. It's gonna be a leap of faith in some pie making. Good vibes. You got this, little buddy. Sorry for blocking the mixer view. I didn't want to get pumpkin pie goop on the computer, but so we have this scented beautiful goodness. Speaking good words to it. Hope it turns out great. So now just pour it in there, yeah? Yeah. Okay. Just Christopher Nolan music playing in the background. Ooh, can you tilt this side up, please? Oh. Okay.
Do you want me to pour it?
It's okay. I think it was just like an angle that I was like a little nervy about the. Not nervy, excuse me. A little nervous. But the thing sliding off the edge.
One thing too, if it seems, I know, especially when you get off work, off a busy day, or you were taking care of kids all day or whatever, baking pie seems really hard, and I feel that. So one way you can make it easier for yourself is kind of doing it in stages. Like you can roast the squash tonight, make the crust, in the morning tomorrow and put it in the fridge, and then, just do the filling because you've already roasted the squash. So that's pretty easy to scoop out tomorrow night, break it up that way. Just in general for cooking, breaking things into stages. If you wanted to roast a whole pumpkin, use half for pie, use half to eat. Make soup. Just make it easier for yourself because
Let's go make some soup. Oh, delicious. We love some soup in this household.
yeah, the Midwest is getting to me, guys.
We love to hear it. We really do. Okay. I'm doing a little bit, spooky season Halloween style crust removing so we can put a little bit more in there. That's probably good, yeah. Should I try and
What size does it call for in the recipe?
9 inches.
Is this 9 inches?
It's 9.5.
Just do it. I mean, what else are you gonna do with that?
This is fair. Okay, so we're gonna open it. We'll see what happens. It should thicken up in the oven.
Be a little bit over the crust, but it's okay.
Probably gonna eat this in a bowl anyway, so
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. So we got this pie-tastic beauty right here. Made a decent job on the crust. Oh golly, the sun.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if we can show you this one, but we'll take a picture afterwards. We'll let you know how it goes. So we spoke good words to it. It's gonna be great.
All the good energy, good vibes.
Yeah. So we're gonna put this puppy in the oven for 40 minutes, and then we'll take it out and send you a picture.
I'm really excited. I can't wait to eat it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Phew. Didn't spill pie in the oven either. Ooh ah ooh ah. Sweet. Well, I think that is it for today's virtual cooking class. If you haven't yet, look out in the comments, fill out the Wunshbe Wosake series class link because it's free money, so why not? Also, if you're doing food, making food, if you have a garden, if you like to make tacos and sell them to people in your neighborhood, whatever the case may be, also hit up Mairi because we're doing this super dope podcast and we'd love to hear more about the food work you're doing.
Oh, or even if you don't want to be interviewed, and this is for anyone who eats food, so all of you, we have a social media challenge where if you use, look on our Facebook page, there's an event, but if you use the hashtag come to the table and food sovereignty, I go through those once a month and it's open to everyone across the state of South Dakota, celebrating local foods, and you can win prizes. So that's pretty fun. Yeah, definitely do that because we've got cool stuff to give away, local food stuff. So yeah.
It's really dope stuff too, isn't it? Like some cooking stuff even?
Yeah, so we're doing it in partnership with Dakota Rural Action, DRA. And so we got some prize bags and they've got some prize bags, but Karen Moore is roasting coffee for the ones that we're giving away. We've got sweetgrass, some sage, some honey lodge honey. So good stuff. Yeah, definitely enter. And DRA also has some cool stuff, some local canned goods, some cool soaps. There might be t-shirts. I heard a rumor.
That sounds cool. Yeah. I was seeing in the comments we got some pie fans, and we'll definitely send you a picture.
You want to see us eating it?
Maybe a slow-mo video of like smiling at each other eating pie. I don't know. It'll be a surprise. Y'all be the first to see it, besides Facebook. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us this week, Mairi. As always, it's a joy to have you as our honorary guest chef. Anytime. It's always great learning from Mairi. She knows a lot about food. I'm learning a lot. It's great. I love it. It makes me happy. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Feel free to come back. So if you love what you're seeing today, want to eat something a little bit more dinner-like, stay tuned because I heard word on the street next week we might be making some beef and broccoli enchiladas. Woo! So delicious, nutritious, and full of protein. So make sure to join us for next week for that. And until then, we'll see you around the Facebook page. So have a good rest of your week and a good weekend, y'all.
Cool. Yeah, enjoy the weekend, everybody.
See ya.